How's it going, Canucks fans? David here, and I'm super pumped to be joined by, once again, Clay Emo. How's it going, Clay?
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you?
I'm very good. Super happy to have you back again for part two of grading Canucks players.
It's the
Uh,
sequel, and aren't sequels supposed to be better than the first? Although I think the players we're grading aren't going to be better than the first.
yeah, well, the grades definitely took a hit from who we looked at last time, because last time we were looking at the main Canucks players, like the top six forwards for most of the season, the top 4D, and the two goalies. This time we're going to be looking at the depth players. So guys on their third line, their fourth line, guys, and there's more than just their bottom six because there were guys who were injured throughout the season. So some people who played less games, and then the last three defensemen who we didn't look at. So yeah, this is the list of players we'll be going through. And same thing like last time, Clay and I will both give a letter grade. So I'll go first for the first player, who's Russell. I'll give a letter grade. Clay will give a grade. Then for the next player, Clay will go. Then I'll go, and so on. And at the end, every every letter grade has a numerical value attached. So like last time, A plus is a 10, A is a 9, A minus is 8, so on. And at the end, Clay and I will reveal our average for the Canucks depth players. Ready to go?
I'm ready.
Okay, so first player on the list here, Antoine Russo. And we see his points per game definitely took a hit from last season, but I'm still going to go and give him a C+. The reason I'm giving him a C+ is because he started the season late because he had a brutal injury which occurred at the end of last year. So he really didn't get an off season to train, prepare, and also like coming off an injury like that, it must be tough to make sure you're in good condition for a full season once you do get back. And also, so considering that, I still think he was part of a very solid third line. He helped Adam got out a lot, and he also can. Part of the reason why I think his points took a hit is because of his time on ice going down, and the fact that he still put up 0.32 points per game, and we don't have Russell really to just put up points. He brings the team in the mix. He gets in scraps. He does what Russell does. So I went with a C+.
Yeah, good grade, Dave, because I actually gave the exact same grade of a C+ as well. You said a lot of really, really good and true things about Roussel. I was actually at his debut, his season debut. It was against Ottawa at home. It was the night that Alex Burrows, Ring of Honor night, exactly. And he started off really well. I think he scored a goal or two that night, and then he kind of dipped a little bit as I think after the basically adrenaline wore off a little bit, and we realized that he started the season in December, so he's in essence 2 months behind his teammates. But you're right, he brings his teammates into the fight. He stands up for his teammates. You got to love all that. His production just tailed off, and then he kind of started to ramp it up again as the season ended. So C+ is good because you're right. He was a solid third liner along with Gaudette and Virtanen. So I would agree with that C+. And it would be it's a shame that he missed the first 2 months of the season for sure. So speaking of his line mate, Adam Gaudette, right in the middle of that third line, I gave him a B. And I'm reading yours. Yeah, he had a great points per game of 0.56. So I give him a B because I think he outperformed his expectations. He got better in the face-off circle, still not great, but a little better at least. I see it, 41%. So I think you want your center to do a little better than that. But the things that he was good at, he scored a lot of goals. He got a lot of points, right? More than a point every 2 games, which is really good. And he got much better defensively. And it seems like Travis Green trusted him more. And you got to have your third-line center to be strong defensively. And now it sets us up really good down the middle. You have Pettersson, you have Horvat, you have Gaudette, and that's one reason why I think they're willing to part ways with Tyler Madden in the Tyler Toffoli trade.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I also gave him a B. And to kind of just add on to what you were talking about, a 0.56 points per game. That's fantastic for a third line center, considering also how many minutes he got. Because to have a 0.56 per game with like the 11th most minutes out of forward is remarkable, and which is on pace for like 45 points in a full season. And God, it was just a pleasure to watch. And sorry, also one grading, I took into account expectations and importance to the team. Importance to the team, check. This team needed a reliable third line center who can put up points. Expectations, he was shaky throughout last season. We saw him go up and down from the minors to the NHL. So it was really nice to see him become a solidified third line center. And so I went B. Next, Zach Mcewen. I gave Mcewen a C. Reason I went with a C for Zach Mcewen is because he was really on the third or fourth line throughout most of the year. He had a points per game of 0.35, but I couldn't justify giving him higher than a C just because of how because of the lack of like importance to the team compared to other guys who were in his role. So yeah, I went with a C.
Yeah, this one I did go a little easier. I gave him a B minus, but I think we're saying the same things. We just value them differently from a standpoint of, yeah, you would point to he only played in 17, right, of the 69 games, so that's only 25%. But I look at it in those 17 games, did quite well. He had 6 points and was a +6 for a third or fourth line guy, 10 minutes a game. So yeah, overall, comparatively speaking, maybe he's a C player for sure. But I think when you bring in expectations and the role he played, I was fine with it, and I'm excited for what he might bring, battling for a bottom six role for the years to come. Cheap, young, for all those reasons, I gave him a B minus.
Yeah.
Okay, Tyler, anything else about Zach?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think the only difference for like the gap there, it's probably just due to expectations.
Fair enough. Totally cool. Yeah, and it's rare that I give a higher mark than you, so I think this is good once in a while. Okay, Tyler Mont, I give him a C plus. I think he brings a lot of energy to the fourth line. Yeah, we usually have a third line of Gaudette, Bertin, Roussel, and the fourth line would have some mix of Mcewen, Erickson, Sutter, Beagle, and Mont, all guys that we're going to be talking about. So for Mont, I love his speed. I love his hustle. You know, despite all that, you know, great penalty killer. I think that's really what raises his mark for me because, at evens, he doesn't do much. He'll never get power play time. And actually, despite him playing on the fourth line, he's not always the best defensively. I've noticed that he has some defensive lapses, but his penalty killing, despite that, is very strong and very much needed, especially when we had injuries to other guys. So I give him a C plus. He's not, the massive point getter, but we don't need him to be.
Yeah, so to get back to that trend of me grading him a bit higher than you, I gave him a B minus. And I agree with a lot of what you said. I gave him a B minus just because of his work on the penalty kill. Vancouver was 16th in the league, very close. Like all the teams in that middle range were very close. So they could have been a bit higher even, but penalty kill was solid. Slight improvement in points per game. And I remember like vividly listening to Botch last year talking about how our fourth line was outscored at a 2-to-1 rate. I remember him always yelling that. And I think there was a slight improvement in the fourth line, although we certainly weren't relying on them for our production. They probably were outscored. I think there was an improvement there. And I think Mont was a big part of that. And yeah, I liked his game. I'm giving him a B minus.
Yep, that sounds good.
So next, Jay Beagle. And for Jay Beagle, similarly to why I gave Mont a B minus, I'm going to give him a C plus. And the reason is because he was a big part of that PK. He was a fourth line center who was on a fourth line, which did his job well. It brought Vancouver to. It was part of Vancouver being in the spot they were when the season finished. So I was satisfied with Beagle's game, and I'm going C plus because I think C plus is an average grade, and I think Beagle did what was expected.
Yeah, I'm close. I gave him a C, so I'm very close to you. Wasn't fond of only 8 points in 55 games, but again, you're not expected to do a lot in a fourth line role when it comes to points. He had a great face-off winning percentage of 59%, and that's why him, Miller, and Horvat, between the three of them, that's why we were so good in face-offs all season. But I still think he's slow. I think he doesn't. He has defensive lapses as well. Well, it sounds like everyone does in our bottom six. And to me, Dave, I just look at the contract, and it's not the best contract. We have him for another 2 seasons after this, right? After signing him 2 years ago to 4 years. So to me, that's a lot of money for a guy who's not producing a lot of points. Wins faceoff, sure, but isn't even the best defensively, although good on the penalty kill. So, a lot of good, a lot of bad. That's why it evens out to a C for me, and probably trending a little lower than a C plus because of his contract.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, Brandon Sutter. I give him a C plus. So I give him a bit better grade than I give Jay Beagle, although I've often talked about in my vlogs how these guys are kind of redundant. They play the same role, a third or fourth line center role. They can kill penalties. They're veterans. They provide leadership, but they're not going to score a lot. Although Sutter's points stats were a little better than Beagle, and that's why I gave him a better grade. He played less games, yet had more points. Not as good as in faceoff circle. Better plus minus. And I think if I had to pick one, although his contract's even worse, I think he makes a tiny bit more. I think Sutter actually had a better season than Beagle did. So there's my C+.
Yeah, and just like you gave Sutter a slightly higher grade than Beagle, I also gave Sutter a slightly higher grade. I gave him a B minus. The reason I go with B minus is that he does have a big improvement in terms of his points per game, and also he kind of had his third line center spot stolen from him from Gaudette, and he was able to adapt and play well on the wing, which I think was important. He was part of that PK2 when he was in the lineup. So I went B minus because when he is in the lineup and he's playing, I think he's an important part to the team.
Sounds good.
So next, Louis Eriksson. And Louis Eriksson, I gave him a C. The reason I gave him a C is because there were times where he was in the lineup and he was on that second line with Horvat and Pearson. And I think he did a good job in that spot in terms of shutting guys down. The reason I don't go any higher than a C, his points per game was lower than this prior season. And a lot of those points came into an empty net, whether it was Horvat, Pearson, or him getting, there was people were joking on Twitter about how, when an empty net, when the other team has their goalie pulled, that's the line you send out because they're going to score for you. So, what was weird about Eriksson, it felt like he was either on the second line or he wasn't in the lineup at all. So, for me, just because of lack of importance to the team, the reduction of points, I went C.
So you know what's crazy? So I give him a C minus, so very close to your grade. What's crazy is, yeah, you're right. You remember him as a second line player until we got to Foley. Yet his his minutes per game were only 12 minutes. So that means obviously he's not getting any power play time, and he's not. He did kill some penalties, so he's not bad defensively. But man, $6 million a year. I think to me that's the killer, right? And that's why you need more than 13 points, 12 minutes a game from a $6 million player. So that's why he's a C minus. I have nothing against him. I have nothing personal against him. He's treated me fine. I've met him a couple times at charity things, but I don't know what he brings to this lineup that a guy that's cheaper or faster wouldn't bring. So that's why I give him a C minus. Okay, Josh Leavell of the injured in December variety. I gave him a B. And it might sound high for a guy who only played for half the season, but in that half a season that he played, he was good. He had 19 points in 36 games. So as you have there, over a 0.5 points per game pace. Really good pickup from that trade with Toronto a year before he got he got hurt in December December 2018. And I just think he was solid. You can put him in a second or third line role. He sticks up for his teammates. He's kind of a heavier guy, yet he's got a decent release on his shot. So it's too bad that he got injured. And it's too bad it's going to hurt his contract value probably and his negotiations. But I gave him a B because I thought he had a solid year until he got hurt.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Nothing really to add. I gave him a B as well. And part of why I gave him a B is because, like I said before, we're both taking into account the expectations. Last year, he was on a line when he played pretty much always with Patterson and Besser. And this year it came around and he was in a second, third line spot. We really didn't know how he was going to do, and he actually improved. And I thought he was super valuable to the team when he was in the lineup. His injury was really unlucky, and I don't know, like you were talking about with the contract, hopefully he comes back for the play-in series and tears it up because I think he's a great player and he deserves a good deal too.
Absolutely.
So next on the board, Troy Stecher. For Troy Stecher, I gave him a B minus. The reason I went B minus with Stecher is because he was important to the team. Although he had lower points per game, his minutes this year were lower than they were throughout the rest of his career. Before it was always 18, 19 minutes. This year it was 15 minutes. At the end, he started to play more. He kind of worked his way into the top four, kind of. But for the first half of the year especially, he didn't play a lot. Still found a way to produce. And when he was given the opportunity in the top four, I think he did quite well. And so, yeah, I went with a B minus just because of his importance to the team when he was given the opportunity.
Cool. I'm very similar. I give him a C plus. I give him a few bonus points because he lives in Richmond, or he's from Richmond, and I live in Richmond in BC. But more than that, you're right. He actually did quite well in limited minutes. Last year, we remember when Tanev got hurt, Stecher got vaulted up to the top line to play with Edler as his partner for a lot of the year. This year, yeah, he bounced all over the place. You have Tanev and Myers, who basically lasted all season. and Stecher played in all 69 games as well, so it shows his durability. His offense was okay, like 17 points in 69 games, plus 10 actually, which is pretty good for a second or third pairing D-man. But you're right, 15 minutes a game. So I still think he because of his size, and he's not as fast as, say, Quinn Hughes, he does get caught a little bit. He gets kind of rubbed out on the boards a little bit, but that's not his fault. He's got a really, really good work ethic. So I don't think I'm being too harsh when I give him a C+, because I thought he had an average year. It wasn't spectacular, but it wasn't poor by any means. So there's my C+. Okay. You want to go with the other two D-men, number 6 and number 7?
Go.
All right, Oscar Fantenberg, our free agent signing, I gave him a C. He appeared in 36 games, 6 points in those 36 games, and he started off behind Jordi Ben. Then he unseated Jordi Ben, and then Ben kind of took. They're kind of battling for that 6th spot for the rest of the year. But yeah, I thought he started the year off okay. I was excited for his offense. But then I started to see a lot of defensive gaffes, kind of the common theme of our vlog today. But I saw some defensive mistakes, which is not great if you're a defenseman. And I just thought he was okay. And I don't know if he actually, grew his value that much. So I give him a C.
Yeah, and I'd agree with a lot of what you said. He started the year, and we didn't expect anything from him. I had him slotted in at 8 going into the season, with 6 being Ben, 7 being Biega, then him at 8. And then he finds a way to get into our top 6 with Biega being traded and stealing Ben's spot. So I'm going to go a bit higher. I'm going to give him C+, just because of the expectations. Really, I didn't expect anything from Fantenberg, and for him to play in the lineup, for him to do quite well once he was given the opportunity earlier in the year, although he slowed down, that's what prevented me from going higher than a C+. But I went with a C+ for Oscar Fantenberg.
Sounds good.
Next, Jordi Ben. And like I was talking about expectations, Jordi Ben kind of failed to meet them. I was pumped after the season he had in Montreal, especially being from Montreal, getting to watch him quite a bit. I was like, this guy's a strong, tough defenseman who's solid in his own zone, who can play, who can be a solid third pairing defenseman. Like, what's there not to like about that? He struggled to stay in the lineup, and due to that and his play when he was in the lineup, I'm giving him a C-.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I give him the same mark as Oscar Fantenberg, because to me they're basically the same player. They don't play the same way. Obviously, Fantenberg's a little taller, leaner, and better skater. Ben is, like you said, a kind of more stay-at-home, tougher type defenseman. But their stats are almost the same. Ben played in 8 more games, but their points per game is almost the same. Their time on ice is almost the same. And I really think that they bring the same to the Canucks lineup. Now, Ben has the versatility of playing both sides, but I think he only played on the right side in 1 game, and I think he did okay in that game. But overall, maybe that's what you expect from a third pairing D-man, right? A number 6 or number 7 guy. I gave him a C, but you're right. We have him for 1 more year at $2 million a pop. You want a bit more from him, so I give him a C as well.
Okay, so we made it through all the players, all the depth Canucks players. So, like I was talking about earlier, every letter has a grade a number attached to it. So I'll just quickly go through it, just so when we reveal what our overall average were for the Canucks, it kind of resembles one of these. So A+ is a 10, A is a 9. There's none of these on the board, but I'm just saying it in order. A- is an 8, B+ is a 7, B is a 6, B- is a 5, C+ is a 4, C is a 3, and a C- is 2, and then so on. So, Clay, what was your average for the Canucks depth players this season?
Mine was easy. You add up all my numerical equivalents. It was 44 divided by 11, so that's an even 4.0 in our rating scale. That's a C+, and that makes a lot of sense because I gave a lot of C+. I gave a couple B-, a couple C's, and even at 1 B and 1 C-. So it averaged out to C+, and that's really a good reflection. C+ means average, and I thought our bottom 6 and our depth players were average. Maybe they got dragged along. Some could argue they're below average, but maybe they got dragged along a little bit by the high end, the Quinn Hughes and the Pedersens and Millers of the world. So I'm fine with that, and that makes sense to me. Maybe I graded a little easy. Some of your viewers might think we're too easy, I should say. But my number is a 4.0, which is a C+ dead on. I think yours is a tiny bit higher, I think.
Yes, you're right. And mine's a 4.3, which also rounds down to a C+ like you gave. And I agree with a lot of what you said. I think Vancouver's depth players were average. They finished like just on the cusp of a playoff spot, so I think like 16 or 17 in the standings, which is about average. And I think their depth players still had to play their role to put them in that position. Although, like you said, like obviously helped out by the way the star players played, but they still had to perform and do their job. So I went with a 4.3.
Yeah, I think that when you look at your 4.3 and my 4, yeah, it's basically equal. So we both agree it's a C plus. I think you may agree with me that you just look at the money though that's sunk into that board, right?
That's
Erickson, Sutter, Beagle, even Russo a little bit. There's a lot there, and we probably want a bit more from our bottom 6 and our our third pairing D.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. That's the biggest issue with this bottom 6, and that's probably why we didn't grade them even higher, just because the expectations for what we're paying this bottom 6. But hopefully, as some of these contracts expire in the next few years here, we can get some of these same players who helped the team get to this spot, but on lower and more reasonable deals.
Absolutely.
And so that's it. Those are our grades for the depth players. But before we wrap this video up, Clay, do you think Vancouver takes Minnesota in the play-in series?
I do. We know that they were very evenly matched throughout the regular season. Basically, Canucks went 1-1-1, whereas Minnesota went 2-1. It's messed up because of the extra point. But yeah, all they play each other quite evenly. But I just think assuming both teams are healthy, I think Vancouver has bigger gaps. I think they have an advantage up front and in net, and with a healthy Markstrom, he's the type of goalie that can steal you a series. He stole us many games, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, in giving him our A pluses, I think. So I like that the Canucks stack up well, both on offense and in goaltending. Yeah, Minnesota's got a deeper D, so I think that'll be the battle, right? It'll be the Vancouver forwards versus the Minnesota D. So I would say Canucks in 4. How about you?
I'm going to agree. I'm going to go Canucks in 4. And for similar reasons to what you said, I like Vancouver's offense significantly more. Like, look, Minnesota was selling at the deadline. They got rid of Zucker at the deadline. I like their goaltending. I like Markstrom more than whether it's Stalock or Dubnyk. We don't really know who's going to be the starter. That's a messed up situation in Minnesota. And then defensively, yeah, Minnesota's defense is stronger, but I think it's still going to be a good series. I'm going 4 games, and I think that the teams are like almost opposite. It feels like Vancouver is this fast team that
like fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And Minnesota, they're slower team with good defense. So I think it'll be an interesting series. But just on paper, I like Vancouver's team more. So I'm going Vancouver as well.
I'm with you.
But yeah, so that wraps up this video. Thanks so much, Clay, for joining me. It was a lot of fun, as always. And if you haven't checked him out on YouTube, like I said last time, I don't know how you're on my channel if you haven't seen his, but check him out. I'll leave his channel page in the description. But thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone stays safe during this time, and go Canucks go.